My name is Emery Willow Hart. I'm 17 years old, and on February 8, 2025, I died on a stretch of highway just outside Moab, Utah. It was snowing lightly, those quiet kind of flakes that look like falling feathers. I was in the passenger seat of my friend Laurel's car, feet on the dash, arguing about where to stop for lunch. We were driving back from a youth retreat, you know, one of those winter church things with bonfires and awkward small groups and just enough Jesus to make your parents happy. I wasn't thinking about God. I wasn't thinking about anything important. I was thinking about curly fries and what playlist to put on next. Then I heard the tires screech. A deer. Out of nowhere. Laurel swerved hard. I remember screaming. I remember the world flipping upside down like a snow globe in slow motion. Glass shattering. Metal folding. My body lifting out of the seat like a puppet without strings. And then, nothing. No pain. No sound. Just silence. Total, absolute silence. At first, I thought I was dreaming. I was floating. No ground, no sky. Just this soft brightness all around me. It wasn't white exactly. More like every color mixed into light. And the strangest thing was, I wasn't afraid. I should have been screaming. I should have been panicking. But I felt calm. Not just calm, safe. Like I was being held. Then I looked down. There was the wreck. The car mangled, upside down, smoking on the side of the road. I saw Laurel crawling out of the driver's side window, covered in blood, screaming my name. I saw my own body, crushed, still, pinned between the seat and dashboard. Paramedics pulling up. Sirens wailing. Flashing red lights bouncing off the snow. I should have felt terrified. But instead I felt peace. Like warm water soaking into my soul. Like every heavy thing I'd ever carried, every anxiety, every insecurity, every night I cried alone in my room, just disappeared. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. Slow. Steady. Each step echoed like a heartbeat in the silence. I turned. And he was there. Tall. Radiant. Wrapped in light that moved like fire and snow at the same time. I didn't need anyone to tell me who he was. I knew. Jesus. He didn't speak at first. He just looked at me. And when our eyes met, every part of me unraveled. I saw every secret I'd hidden, every bitter thought, every mistake and selfish choice, all of it laid bare in an instant. I thought I'd feel shame. But I didn't. I felt love. A kind of love that made my knees weak and my soul strong at the same time. Like he had always known me, and still, somehow, wanted me. Emery, he said. And his voice was like the sound of wind through pine trees and lullabies and thunder rolled into one. Walk with me. So I did. We didn't walk on ground. We moved through something that felt alive, like clouds made of music, or air that breathed. I had 1,000 questions. But for the first time in my life, I didn't need answers. I just needed him. And he was there. Before the snow fell, before the crash, before everything, I was just a girl from Flagstaff, Arizona. I lived in a small gray house with chipped paint and a broken porch swing that only creaked when the wind blew right. My mom, Delilah, was a high school English teacher who talked to her plants and collected old books with broken spines. My dad, when he was still around, used to play guitar in the living room and sing songs he never finished. But he left when I was 12, and the music left with him. It was just me, my mom, and my little brother Asher after that. We weren't poor, but we weren't doing great either. I worked weekends at a thrift store off Route 66, mostly folding jeans and pretending not to hear the manager complain about her ex. I wasn't popular, but I wasn't invisible. I had a few close friends, Laurel mostly, and a notebook full of poems I never showed anyone. I used to believe in God. Or at least I think I did. When I was younger, I'd pray at night like it meant something. I'd stare at the stars and feel like someone was listening. But somewhere along the way, between my dad leaving, my grandma dying, and boys at school saying one thing and meaning another, I stopped expecting answers. Church became routine. Like brushing your teeth. You just do it so nothing decays. I still went to youth group sometimes. I'd sit in the back, scroll my phone, nod at the right times. I'd sing the songs, but I didn't feel them. Not really. It's not that I stopped believing in God. I just figured he wasn't really paying attention to girls like me. Quiet girls. Doubtful girls. Girls who didn't have some shining testimony. Honestly, I thought God had favorites. And I wasn't one of them. But I pretended well. People thought I was doing fine. I laughed at lunch, posted filtered selfies, even gave a devotional at the winter retreat about trusting God's timing. But inside, I felt like a cracked mug. Pretty enough to sit on a shelf, but useless for holding anything real. I never told anyone about the panic attacks I sometimes had in the middle of the night. Or how sometimes I'd cry in the thrift store stockroom and then wipe my eyes before clocking back in. Or how empty I felt after scrolling Instagram for hours, comparing my life to girls with perfect skin and happy families and faith that didn't feel borrowed. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell Laurel. I didn't tell God. Because I didn't think he was listening. So when Laurel invited me to that winter retreat up in the mountains, I said yes, not because I wanted some spiritual awakening, but because I needed a break. A weekend in the snow sounded better than folding jeans and dodging texts from a guy who only talked to me when he was bored. If you had told me that 3 days later I'd be dead on the side of a highway, I would have laughed in your face. If you had told me that God was listening all along, that he was preparing to rip my heart wide open, I would have rolled my eyes and gone back to my vanilla latte. But now I know. The snow was already falling. It happened faster than a blink. 1 second we were laughing about how bad the retreat pancakes were, and the next, Laurel screamed. A deer. A big one. Its eyes caught in the headlights like tiny moons. The tires hit black ice. The car jerked sideways. Everything slowed. I remember the sound of metal groaning, glass cracking like thin ice underfoot, Laurel's voice turning into a static scream. The seatbelt locked across my chest, then released. We spun once, twice, then flipped. I saw sky. Then trees. Then sky again. I remember the sick feeling of being weightless, like I'd stepped off the edge of a cliff in a dream. Then came the slam. It wasn't just one hit. It was like the world punched me from every direction at once. My head slammed into the window. My knees crumpled into the glove box. Then silence. Nothing moved. Not the snow. Not the air. Not me. And then, blackness. But not the kind of black that means, over. It was like being pulled through soft velvet. Quiet. Deep. Like falling asleep underwater with your eyes open. Then, light. A soft glow, like morning sunlight filtered through clouds. But there was no sun. No ground. No sky. Just warmth. All around me. And I was standing. No pain. No blood. No broken bones. I looked down and saw myself. My body, twisted, pale, still inside the car. Laurel was outside now, crawling toward the road, her knees bleeding. Her hands were shaking. She was screaming my name over and over, and I wanted to shout back, "I'm here. I'm okay." But my voice didn't work. Paramedics arrived. I watched them work on me. Paddles. Chest compressions. A woman shouting orders. One of them pulled a blanket over my legs. Another wiped sweat from his brow like he already knew it was too late. But I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel anything bad at all. I felt seen, known, held. And then, behind me, footsteps. I turned. There he was. Jesus. I didn't question it. I didn't need to. Every part of my soul recognized him. He looked nothing like the pictures in church bulletins. He was light, but not blinding. He was human, but more. His eyes were like galaxies. His presence was weightless and infinite at once. He didn't speak right away. He just looked at me. And in that look, I saw everything. Every late-night cry. Every unspoken prayer. Every time I whispered, "Are you even real?" into the ceiling of my room. He had heard it all. And he had come for me. When he finally spoke, it wasn't with his mouth. It was like the words bloomed directly into my chest. "Emery," he said, and my name had never sounded so whole. "Walk with me." I wanted to ask 1,000 questions. Am I dead? Where are we? Why me? But instead, I just nodded. Because somehow, I already knew the answer. We moved. Not on roads, not in space, but through something that felt like it breathed. Light flowed beneath our feet like water, and around us danced colors I had no names for. It was like walking through a symphony you could see. I wasn't scared. I wasn't sad. I felt more alive than I ever had in my actual life. And somewhere deep inside I understood. This was just the beginning. We walked in silence for what felt like forever and no time at all. It's strange how being with Jesus made everything still and moving at the same time. There was no ticking clock. No pressure. Just presence. The air shimmered around us like it was made of breath and music. I could feel it. Joy, woven into the space between moments. Like the world was humming a lullaby I'd forgotten how to hear. Then Jesus stopped. He looked at me with eyes that felt like home and eternity all at once. "I want to show you something," he said. "Something important." Suddenly, the clouds parted like curtains pulled aside. We stood on what looked like the edge of a mountain made of light and stone. Below us, the earth. It turned slowly, like a marble in a giant hand. Oceans glinting, cities flickering, storm systems swirling. I could see the whole planet from above, but I felt like I was part of it too. "This is the world I love," he said. "And it's breaking." I looked closer. And that's when the visions began. The first was a city I recognized. San Francisco. I saw buildings swaying like they were made of cloth. Fires breaking out. People running. Crying. Then I saw someone I didn't expect, a young woman with bright pink hair, kneeling in the middle of the chaos, her hands lifted, praying. And around her, everything slowed. Like the storm bowed to her faith. "Even in the shaking," Jesus whispered, "I plant seeds of awakening." The second vision opened like a window behind his shoulder. A desert. Somewhere in the Middle East. Maybe Syria. Maybe Iran. Missiles streaked across the sky like angry stars. I saw soldiers, young, scared, shouting into radios. Then I saw a child, maybe 6, standing alone in the rubble, clutching a tattered stuffed bear. Her lips were moving. She was singing. A broken, trembling melody. "She sings my name," Jesus said softly. "Even in places where it's forbidden." The scene shifted again. I saw a room full of screens. Tech headquarters somewhere. Seattle or Austin maybe. A man with glasses and a tight jawline barked orders at a team of programmers. But on one screen, in a small corner, a live stream was playing. It was a teenage girl in a hoodie, sitting cross-legged in her bedroom, reading the Bible out loud on TikTok. And thousands, were watching. "Your generation," Jesus said, "is not lost. They're waiting to be lit." He turned to me then. His face was serious, but his voice, so gentle. "I chose you to see this because you understand what it feels like to be invisible." Tears welled in my eyes. "Why me?" I whispered. He smiled. Not like he was humoring me, but like he knew something I didn't yet. "Because I don't choose the strongest. I choose the willing." He raised his hand. And in the air above us, 3 glowing threads unraveled, like strands of golden fire stretching across the sky. They began to connect places, people, events, things I didn't understand at first. A revival in a high school gym in Ohio. A tech breakthrough in Tokyo. A meeting between world leaders no one knew was happening. The threads wove between them like vines, invisible connections shaping destiny. These are the beginnings of the crescendo, Jesus said. The world will think it's falling apart. But it's actually falling into place. I wanted to ask more. I wanted to know everything. But then he looked me in the eye, and I felt something shift deep in my spirit. A weight and a warmth at the same time. You won't remember every detail, he said. But you will carry the truth. And I knew he didn't just mean information. He meant calling. He meant fire. And just like that, the visions faded. We were back on the mountain. Just him, me, and the earth turning slowly below. And for the first time in my life, I realized I hadn't just been saved. I'd been sent. We stood on the edge of that glowing mountain in silence. The earth spun below us like a lullaby, but my heart beat louder than it ever had. Not out of fear, but something deeper, urgency. Like my soul had been handed a map I couldn't fully read, but somehow knew by heart. Jesus turned to me. His expression had changed. Still loving, always loving, but now there was something else behind his eyes. Something fierce. Emery, he said, there are things coming that will shake the world. Not to destroy it, but to wake it. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My throat felt tight. My hands trembled even though there was no wind. He continued. There will be wars, yes. There will be division, betrayal, collapse in places that once felt unshakable. But my people must understand. I am not absent in the chaos. I'm moving through it. His voice was low now, almost like he was telling me a secret the universe hadn't heard yet. You will tell them. You will speak what I've shown you, not as a prophet shouting from rooftops, but as a daughter whispering truth into hearts that are afraid. I felt something rise in my chest. Terror. No. Calling. But who's going to listen to me? I asked, my voice cracking. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into something that looked like a fold in the light itself. From it, he pulled out what looked like a tiny orb of gold, pulsing, glowing faintly like it was alive. This is for you, he said. I held out my hands without thinking. The moment it touched my skin, I felt it, a shock of warmth, light, power, peace, all at once. It sank into me, disappeared beneath the surface of my skin, and rested deep inside my chest like it had always been there. What is it? I whispered. Hope, he said. A living seed. In the days to come, when the world starts burning and faith feels small, you will remember this moment. You will feel that warmth, and it will remind you that I'm still here, that I'm still writing the story. I couldn't stop the tears. They came without warning, without shame, because I finally understood what he was asking of me. To return. To go back to a world that felt darker now, because I'd seen the light. To carry a message that would be doubted, mocked, dismissed, and still speak it anyway. Jesus, I breathed. I don't want to leave. Not after this. He stepped closer and placed his hand on my face, just like a father would. I know, he said, but the world needs what I've placed inside you. Your brother needs you. Laurel needs you. There are souls waiting for the words I've given you. I shook my head. But what if I fail? What if I mess it all up? He smiled, that smile, the one that melted every fear. I don't choose the flawless, he said. I choose the faithful. Then he looked past me. Over the earth. Some will laugh. Some will ignore. Some will hate you for it. But others, they'll hear it. Not just with their ears, but with their hearts. And that's all I need. A few ready hearts. I closed my eyes. Tried to memorize his voice. His face. The feeling in my chest. I knew it was almost over. Will I see you again? I whispered. He touched the spot over my heart where the golden seed now pulsed. Sooner than you think. And then, everything around me dissolved into light, brighter than 1,000 suns but softer than a mother's hand. I wasn't falling. I was being lowered, like feathers drifting from the sky. And just before the light swallowed everything, I heard him say one final thing. Remember, the world may tremble, but I never do. The light was everything. It wrapped me, held me, filled me until I thought I'd disappear inside it. And then, pain. Sharp, electric, blinding pain in my chest. It was like being slammed back into a body I'd forgotten how to live in. My lungs burned. My fingers twitched. My throat felt like sandpaper scraped against stone. Then came the voices. First muffled, like underwater shouting. Then clearer. She's breathing. Oh my God, she's actually breathing. Her pulse is back. Get her stabilized. Now. I gasped, air flooding in like I'd never breathed before. My eyelids fluttered. I blinked into a blur of faces, lights, masks, wires. And then, I heard the one voice that mattered. Emery. It was my mom. Baby, do you hear me? Oh my God, she's awake. She's awake, she's really back. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. Her fingers wrapped around mine and didn't let go. They told me I had been gone for 18 minutes. No heartbeat. No brain activity. Clinically, I had died. The doctors had already started preparing the paperwork. But here I was. Breathing. Blinking. Alive. They kept me under observation for days. Hooked up to machines that beeped and blinked and spat out numbers. They ran tests. Scans. Monitored brainwaves. Checked for trauma, swelling, neurological damage. But everything came back clear. Honestly, one nurse whispered when she thought I was asleep. It's like nothing happened. Like she just decided to wake up. But I knew better. Something had happened. The first night back in my hospital bed, the dreams started. Not dreams like before. These were different. They weren't memories. They weren't imagination. They were reminders. I saw the golden thread stretching through the earth. I heard Jesus' voice echoing through my soul like wind through tall grass. I saw the girl with pink hair praying in the fire again. The child singing in the rubble. My generation rising with hands lifted high. When I woke up, I could still feel the warmth of the golden seed pulsing in my chest like a second heartbeat. And then something strange began to happen. I could sense people. Not in a weird psychic way, more like heart vision. The nurse who took my blood pressure every morning? Her smile was fake. She was grieving someone, I could feel it. The EMT who came to check on me after the crash? He hadn't prayed in years, but he prayed the moment my pulse returned. Even my mom, who tried so hard to be strong, I could feel how scared she'd been. How much she blamed herself for letting me go on that retreat. And I just knew, Jesus wanted me to see them that way. Not as bodies or roles or faces, but as souls. Souls with cracks. Souls with longing. Souls worth everything. When I finally went home, the world felt louder. Colder. But I wasn't the same. I didn't even feel like a 17-year-old girl anymore. I felt like a flame walking in a house made of paper. The golden seed inside me wasn't dormant. It was growing. And I didn't know exactly what it meant yet, or what it would require of me. But I could feel the whisper of it in every heartbeat. This isn't over. This is where it begins. I didn't talk about what happened for the first few days. How could I? How do you look someone in the eye and say, I died, saw Jesus, and came back with a glowing seed of hope pulsing in my chest, without sounding insane? I barely believed it myself. So I stayed quiet. I went through the motions, rested, smiled, nodded when people called me a miracle. But inside, something was building. A pressure. A warmth. Like the golden seed Jesus gave me was aching to be spoken out loud. It wasn't until the following Sunday that I finally broke. My youth pastor, Benji, stopped by the house to drop off a care basket from the church. Trail mix, fuzzy socks, a handwritten card from the girls in small group. Before he left, he looked at me kind of sideways and said, Anything you want to talk about, Em? I've seen a lot of kids cry at retreats, but none of them flatlined on the drive home. I didn't laugh. I couldn't. I stared at my hands for a long moment, then said, "Can we talk in private?" We sat on the porch, just me and Pastor Benji, the Arizona wind tugging at the chimes like they were trying to warn the air. I started slowly, like someone walking out onto a frozen lake, testing every word before letting it go. "I died," I said. He didn't flinch. "And I saw him. Jesus." I don't know how else to say it. His eyebrows rose, but he didn't interrupt. So I kept going. I told him everything. The floating. The warmth. The mountain. The globe. The girl in the fire. The golden threads. The child in the rubble. The message. The hope. I told him about the seed in my chest. About how it changed the way I saw people. How I could feel when someone was aching or lost or pretending. About how I didn't ask for this, and didn't feel qualified, and didn't even want to believe it all at first. But I couldn't not believe it now. Not after everything. When I finished, he just sat there. Quiet. Processing. Then he did something I didn't expect. He started crying. Not big sobs. Not performative. Just quiet, steady tears. "You don't know this," he said after a while, "but 3 days ago I told God I was quitting. Ministry. Everything." I said, "If you still care about this generation, show me." He wiped his eyes and gave a small, amazed laugh. I think he just did. That was the first time I said it out loud. And something changed in me after that. The golden warmth inside my chest burned brighter. Not painfully, but like an ember catching wind. I knew this was what Jesus meant when he said some would listen. Some would recognize the truth not with their heads, but with their hearts. It wouldn't always be like this. I knew that. Some people would laugh. Others would argue. Most would ignore it completely. But I didn't need everyone. Jesus told me all he needed was a few ready hearts. And Pastor Benji? He was the first. It started with a youth night. Pastor Benji asked me to share just a few thoughts with the group. I was terrified. My hands shook the whole time I held the mic. I kept thinking, they're going to laugh. They're going to think I hit my head too hard in the crash. But I spoke anyway. I told them about dying. I told them about the mountain. About Jesus. About the golden seed. I told them how I used to sit in the back and fake my way through worship songs, and how I thought God had favorites and I wasn't one of them. I told them how wrong I was. When I finished, the room was silent. Not awkward silent. Holy silent. Like something sacred was breathing through the space between us. A girl named Audrey stood up and whispered. I felt it. The warmth. When you were talking. I felt it in my chest. That's when I knew. I wasn't imagining this. Word spread. Benji asked if I'd be willing to share again. And again. First in our church. Then another one across town. Then at a small Christian school in Mesa. Not everyone clapped. Some adults sat with their arms crossed and faces like stone. One guy stood up during a Q&A and said, "Near-death hallucinations aren't theology. This is dangerous." I didn't argue. I didn't try to win him over. I just said, I didn't ask for this. But I can't unsee what I saw. Some called me emotionally unstable. A girl chasing attention. A child too young to talk about the end times or spiritual warfare or visions of Jesus. A few people online said I was part of a TikTok cult. But for every person who doubted me, there was someone else who came up afterward, eyes filled with tears, whispering things like, "I haven't prayed in years, but now I want to. I thought God stopped speaking to people. My little brother died last year. Your story gave me hope he's with Jesus." And those moments, those tiny flashes of light in trembling souls, that's what kept me going. Because it wasn't about proving anything. It wasn't about being believed. It was about planting the seed. But the pushback hurt more than I expected. I lost friends. Laurel stopped returning my texts. Said I'd changed too much, and was getting too intense. I cried for 2 nights straight over that one. I wanted to tell her that I missed her. That I wasn't trying to be better than her. That I just couldn't go back to pretending life was normal after what I'd seen. But how do you explain to someone that you touched eternity and then had to return to third-period chemistry? Even my mom, who supported me quietly, started getting nervous. She asked if I was okay, really okay. If maybe the trauma was catching up to me. If I wanted to see someone about the dreams. I told her the truth. I already did. I saw him. That golden seed in my chest burned brighter with every story I told. But it also cost me comfort, reputation, belonging. It forced me to live with a kind of loneliness I'd never felt before. But it was worth it. Because something bigger was coming. And Jesus had warned me. The world will think it's falling apart. But it's actually falling into place. I've told this story a dozen times now. In churches, living rooms, parking lots, classrooms. Sometimes to crowds. Sometimes to one person who just needed to know they weren't forgotten. And every time I tell it, I feel the seed inside me burning brighter. But here's what I've learned. This story was never really about me. Not about a 17-year-old girl who died and saw Jesus. Not about the visions. Not about Iran or TikTok or golden threads between leaders and events. It was about something bigger. Hope. Because the world is shaking. You feel it, don't you? The fear on the news. The tension in schools and families and cities. The wars. The confusion. The feeling like everything is speeding up but no one knows where we're going. And in all that noise, it's easy to believe that God went silent. But he hasn't. He's moving. Through the fire. Through the cracks. Through the chaos. Through girls like me who were once invisible. Through boys who kneel quietly instead of shout. Through tech geniuses, broken families, doubters, and dreamers. He's weaving golden threads through the world. And you, yes, you, reading this, listening, doubting, you're one of them. I know it sounds crazy. I would have thought so too. But I've been there. I've stood on a mountain with Jesus and looked at the earth like a living story. I've felt his hand on my face and heard his voice in my bones. And I came back to tell you. The symphony is reaching its crescendo. The darkness you see. It's not the end. It's the cracking of an old world. So a new one can be born. One where every tear will be wiped away. Every fear erased. Every broken thing remade. And Jesus, not just a name in a song, not a painting on a church wall. Jesus himself will return. Not as a baby. Not as a theory. But as a king. And I know, when that happens, you'll want to be ready. Not perfect. Not religious. Just ready. So if something inside you is stirring right now, like warmth blooming behind your ribs, don't ignore it. That's not emotion. That's not hype. That's him. Calling your name. Just like he called mine. Walk with me. The time is short. But there's still time. And if I, an ordinary girl from Arizona, can carry his light into a shaking world, so can you. Because the fire isn't just in me anymore. It's in you now. Let it burn.